Hey everybody, this is John. Today I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on IDPA. What it's all about, it's mostly for someone that's just going to go for their very first match. What equipment do they have to bring? What are the range commands? What are the proper reloading techniques? And just some information like that. IDPA stands for International Defensive Pistol Association. It's the sport of shooting using practical equipment to solve simulated self-defense scenarios. Its purpose is to promote safe handling of firearms, but it's also to test you in your skill level. There are separate equipment divisions, as well as when you become classified, you may have a level of sharpshooter, marksman, expert, something like that. So when you are ranked in your scoring in the competition, you are ranked against other individuals with a similar skill level as yours. The equipment you're going to need is 1. Good eye protection, 2. Good ear protection. As well, you're going to need a cover garment. On your very first match, you won't need one. They're going to let you shoot without one. But a cover garment is a vest or a sports jacket or a long shirt, something that when you put it on and you hold your arms out like that, the bottom of the jacket, it doesn't lift high enough that it would reveal the muzzle of your gun. The holster. The holster I use is a Kydex like this. The requirement for the holster is that when you do put it on your belt, there should be no seam. You shouldn't be able to see any daylight through the belt loop when you put this on your belt. Also, it should keep the gun as tight as possible to your belt. The magazine pouch, you're going to need something like this. This is a paddle holster, and when the magazines are loaded, you should be able to turn the pouch upside down and the magazines will not fall out. The proper positioning of both these on your belt is to have the holster such that the top of your gun and the holster goes and coincides with the center line of your pants or your body, like the seam of your pants. As well as for the magazine pouch, the front side of the magazine pouch should run along the front seam of your pants as well. Another requirement for the holster is that its position on the belt should be such that its breech face, which is right there, that should, when installed, the breech face should be above at the middle line of the belt or higher. So like a drop leg holster or something like that. That's not appropriate for IDPA. My vest is made by 511. You can get it at Midway USA, or I think I got this one on the NRA website. But there's lots of pockets in it. It's a very good vest for shooting IDPA. Other equipment you may want to bring is a cooler with ice and water, sunblock, a hat, a snack, maybe some granola bars, something like that. As well, baby wipes are often nice if you got dirt on your hands, lead or something like that from the bullet. You may want to, baby wipes to clean them off. That's pretty good. Most ranges are considered a cold range. That means the gun is always unloaded until it's your turn to shoot. Often the commands you're going to hear that you need to understand are load and make ready, shooter ready, stand by, stop, finger, muzzle, cover. Some of those are pretty obvious, but they are standard words. Usually a range safety officer will not say anything else other than those things. When it's your turn to get up, nothing else will come out of his mouth. He's not going to coach you on doing anything or point out extra targets that you may have missed. Nothing. So those words are the ones you might need to understand. So when it's your turn to shoot, you're going to stand up to the line. The range officer is going to say, load and make ready. You face down range. You take the gun out and point it down range. You take out a magazine. You always load +1. So you insert the magazine, load it, put that one in your pocket, and you take out a fresh magazine, put it in the gun. Then you holster the gun. Then you face down range. The next command will be something like shooter ready. If you don't move, that means you're ready. Then he's going to say stand by. Buzzer goes off, and you draw the gun, you shoot your targets. When you're finished, you're going to just stop and freeze like that. Then the range officer is going to say, if you're, unload and show clear. Take the magazine out, put it like that, and then you show him the gun is clear. And then you slide forward, you put the slide forward. Hammer down, and just pull the trigger, and you holster. Then the word is range is clear or range is safe. That means people can now go down and start scoring targets or taping targets, whatever. The other commands are stop, muzzle, finger, cover. So if you're doing something and say you break the 180 rule, because there is a 180 rule whereby, from left to right, if you go past the 180 rule to go back and shoot a target, they're going to send you home because you're not allowed to break the 180. So if you did something like that, or say something happened like an animal ran across the range or whatever, the range officer would say stop. Obviously you freeze and you stop immediately. If you were running from one target to the other and you had your finger inside the trigger guard, he's going to yell at you, finger. And if you don't listen and you break that, probably once or twice, they will probably give you a procedural error, which is a 3-second penalty. And if you fail to listen and you don't get your finger out of the trigger guard, you may actually be disqualified. Muzzle. If you're pointing the gun, say, in an unsafe direction while you're reloading or you're running or something like that, and an unsafe direction may not necessarily be breaking 180, but you could just be pointing it up in the air or some odd place. If they yell muzzle, it means get the muzzle pointed downrange. Cover. Anytime there is cover, which could be a wall or something like that, you're supposed to have your 2 legs behind cover as well as at least half of your upper body behind cover. And that's how you're supposed to shoot your targets. If you just jump out around cover and start shooting everything down, obviously you put yourself in a threatening situation, and they're going to yell cover, which means get back in behind the wall. So what's the proper way to draw a gun when you're wearing a cover garment? Everybody thinks, yeah, I know how to draw a gun. Who doesn't know how to draw a gun from a holster? There is an actual technique to it. You want to make sure you're doing it safely and properly. You don't sweep your other hand or something like that. You also want to know how to reholster the gun. Believe it or not, I see a lot of people, new shooters, make these mistakes all the time. This is how you do it properly. You're wearing a garment like this. Even if you're not wearing a garment, this is how you do it. Okay. Your left hand, which is your support hand, this guy comes here, and your right hand will sweep back the jacket and reveal the gun. So, it's like this. Now, when this thing is swept back, you get your hand on the gun. The web of your hand goes on the gun, and the knuckle of your middle finger goes up and under the trigger guard, and you get a good firm grip. This hand here is solidly firmed against your chest, right here. The gun comes up, and as it comes up, it turns like this. And as it comes out, your other hand meets it and you grip the gun. Now, as the gun is being pushed out in front of your face, your sights are lined up. Right now, I'm on the target, which means I can now put my finger on the trigger. And as I push the gun out, if you're comfortable with this and you know your gun, as the gun comes out and is straightening up, my finger is actually taking up the slack in the trigger. And so right now, by the time my arms are fully extended, my first shot's off. So, you think about it, it's like this. That's all it's to it. Now, when it comes to reholstering, how do you get that gun back in holster? You don't want to sweep your hand. So usually you do something like that. This hand should be in your pocket, behind your back, something like that. And then this gun goes in like that. You never grab onto your holster and put your gun in. Just sweep your hand. I see it a lot, but don't do that. Another technique, get your jacket out of the way if you want. You could grab around like that and pull your jacket. Now with your jacket out of the way, you can reholster your gun. It looks a little funny, but it gets this hand away from the gun, and you're not going to cross the hand when you're reholstering. There are only 3 permissible reloads in IDPA. Slide lock reload, reload with retention, and tactical reload. You're never allowed to drop a magazine with ammunition in it and leave it on the ground while you continue to shoot the stage. You always have to pocket the ammunition or put it back in a mag pouch or something. So slide lock reload, pretty obvious. You're shooting the gun, bang, 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 and you run the gun dry, right? The slide lock's open. Drop the magazine, you look, and you put the magazine in the gun, then you can either rack it like that or hit the button and you're ready to rock and roll again. Next is reload with retention. Okay, so you're shooting boom, 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 boom. You're going to go from this barrier over to that barrier. You can't cross the barrier with the gun being empty, or for some reason there's a lull in action and you want to stop and reload before you move on. So, bang, 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 you're shooting. Take the magazine out, put it in your pocket, take the other magazine out, put it in the gun, ready to go. That's reload with retention. Tactical reload is similar, but slightly different. You're shooting like that and you're behind a barrier or something, and before you transition or whatever, you want to do a tactical reload. So you first grab the magazine, put it in your fingers like that, drop this magazine, put that gun in your pocket, and now you're ready to shoot. Tactical reload. Some other general things about IDPA: it's not considered to be a competition like, say, USPSA is. So before you shoot, you're not permitted to air gun and walk a stage, like to plan in your head how you're going to game it. You know, I'm going to come over here and shoot this and run over here, then I'm going to do my reload here. You don't do that with IDPA. You're not supposed to. So actually there's no air gunning, and there's no beforehand thought process of trying to sort out how you're going to shoot the stage. Usually in IDPA, a course of fire is already given to you, so you're already instructed how you're going to shoot things. Also, you must use cover whenever it's provided. So if you can stand behind an object like a wall, a barrier, barrel, something like that, you're always supposed to. You never just run and gun out through a bunch of spaces. You always have to stand behind cover. And your 2 feet and half of your upper body has to be behind that cover. Now, if you're engaging some targets and your gun runs dry, as long as you're meeting that rule whereby half your upper body is behind and your feet are behind, you can do your reload while you're still, looking at your targets, looking at your threats. So you don't have to come in behind the wall and take your eyes off the threats and reload. You can do that when you're out in the open. But if you're going to go from one barrier to another barrier, you can't like walk from here to there with the gun in slide lock and ran dry. You always, when moving between barriers, you always have to reload or at least have some ammunition in the gun as you're doing the walk. So scoring an IDPA is something called a Vickers or Vickers count. What that is from the time the buzzer goes off until the last shot is fired, that's a time in seconds. And then what you'll do is you go to your targets and then you count the zones in the target that have hits. What it is essentially points down. So as the shots are worst on the target, you'll have an increased number of points, and you tally up the number of points and divide that by 2, and now that's a time in seconds, and then you add that to the original time on the clock, and that's your full score for that stage. So a target like this is a 0 area and the head is a 0 area. So there's no points down for that region. This is a -1 or a 1, and this is a -3. And if you miss the target altogether, it's a -5. So in this case, if you, for example, were to get all your shots, say you fired 3 shots on the target, 1, 2, 3. Well, you're down 3 points. So if it took 10 seconds and you're down 3 points, 3 divided by 2, it's 1.5. So 10 plus 1.5, that would be 11.5 seconds was your score for the stage. There's something called failure to neutralize. And what that is if you've got to put 2 or more shots on the target, well, say if it's 2 shots on the target, you must have at least 1 shot inside the 0 or the 1 zone. Otherwise, you would be penalized for failure to neutralize. So, for example, if you put 2 shots in the 3 zone, you're going to have, you're going to be down 3 and 3, 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So your time plus an extra 3 seconds for that plus a penalty for failure to neutralize, which I think is like 5 seconds or something like that. Sometimes on a stage, the stage is just a bunch of targets set out, and you may have multiple strings. Strings mean you're going to shoot the stage once, that's a string, and you're going to shoot it again, that's your second string. And you're going to shoot it a third time, that's your third string. So you may have multiple strings on a stage, and you may not be taping up the holes in your targets until the very end of the third string. So in that particular case, shots would be limited. So say you've got a couple targets, you may shoot them once and then holster or make ready, and then you shoot them a second time. But in that particular case, the number of shots you put on each target is going to be limited to a specified amount. If the stage is not like that, then say, for example, in a previous example, if you got 2 in the 3 zone, you could follow up and you could put extra shots on the target until you got all zeros if you wanted to. It's going to take your extra time. But in a limited Vickers, you have to shoot only the number of shots on target as specified. If you shoot more, you'll be penalized. Sometimes there are no-shoot targets considered to be like a hostage or a loved one or something like that, and sometimes they'll have like a hands on it or something indicating that it's a non-threat target. If you shoot a non-threat target, you could put 4 bullets in a non-threat target, but you're only going to be penalized once. I think it's 5-second penalty for hitting a non-threat target. Then there are procedural errors. Usually on a course of fire, the person who set up the stage will have directions there, and it'll say, engage these targets from this port, engage these targets from this cover, and you're going to put 2 shots on each, or 2 shots plus a headshot or something like that. That's the instructions. You have to follow it. If you don't follow it, you may get a procedural error, which is like 3-second penalty. If the safety officer says get your finger off the trigger while you're moving, if you fail to do that, you may have procedural error there. So there's lots of other things you can get a procedural error for. Tactical priority. Tactical priority is when you engage targets as you see the threats come upon you. So typically, like one example is slicing the pie. What that is you can think of a pie as like this was a wheel with spokes. You can sort of think of it like that, like slices of a pie. As you come around the corner, this is the first target you're going to see. You're not going to see these other targets. So you see this guy, you can double tap this one. Double tap is two shots in sequence. So you can double tap this one. And then as you poke around and you look, you're going to see this next one. You're still not going to see this, but you're going to see number 2. Then you can double tap that one. And then eventually when you look around even more, you'll see number 3. You double tap that one. So bang, 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 and that's tactical priority. Tactical sequence is a scenario when you're exposed to a bunch of threats and you don't have cover or anything, so all threats are apparent to you all at the same time. And how you engage these threats. Now these threats may be within 2 yards, so say that these 3 are all pretty much within a few yards of each other. How you would engage these is you would first shoot the one that you feel is closest to you, or the one, since we're all considered to be equal threat, you would go 1, 1, 1, then you would follow up 1, 1, 1. And maybe if the course of fire says, 2 in the body, 1 in the head, so we 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, head, head, head. That's typically how you would do that. But tactical sequence is every target is equal threat. They all get 1 shot first, and then you follow up with a second shot after. So that's pretty much the basics of IDPA. I mean, I could go into more details. It'll take me a lot longer, but really, what you need to know is some simple stuff like this. And go out to a match, watch what's going on. I would suggest bring your gun to the very first match, as long as you have the equipment that I showed you here today. Just bring your gun, go out, watch, and after you shoot a match or 2, you're going to learn by watching other people, how it all works. And you will, you may suck your very first match, but you will get better. And there's just keep shooting and learn from others, and read the rule book, and it'll become pretty obvious after you do it a couple times. Another thing too is if you have a concealed carry permit, you are permitted to use your carry pistol, and also you can use your inside the waistband holster. So you can go completely off the street and go shoot an IDPA match if you wanted to. But IDPA is a very good sport to fine-tune those safe handling skills, and to really, it really helps you realize under a stressful situation, you could empty the magazine and you wouldn't even know how many shots you fired until you realized you went to slide lock, because under stressful situations, there's people watching you. Once that buzzer goes off and you're being tested, I mean, your brain goes into autopilot, and your body just seems to take over and execute, and sometimes you don't even realize that the stage is over until the safety officer is asking you to unload and show clear. So it's pretty damn cool, and if you've never done competitive shooting before, give it a try, man. You're going to love it. You're going to get hooked. Thanks for watching.